want to bring to the stage our sixth and final author of the day, Nickey Knighton, author of a book on sisterhood and love, Sisters by Heart. Nickey Knighton is a graduate of Tuskegee University. She is the Chief Innovation Officer of the company she founded, Winners LLC, which is a people investment company. She's an executive coach and leadership consultant. While attending Tuskegee, Nickey pledged a Black Greek sorority along with 28 other women with whom she remains close. After college, Nickey served tours of duty in the military on several continents, including North America, Europe, Africa, and Asia. Beginning in high school, she discovered her natural passion for creating and maintaining meaningful relationships with people worldwide. She is the author of Sisters by Heart, the fictional story of 7 sorority sisters and the lives they have created post-graduation. The sequel, Heart of a Sister, will be released in September 2023. Right. So we look forward to that.
Ooh, Heart of a Sister.
All right.
My sister is up here with me. Oh, well, Nickey, since it's almost that time, if you could have dinner with any writer living or dead, whom would it be and why?
That would be a start. Yep, exactly. I'm thinking Alice Walker.
Oh,
exactly. You know, Alice Walker is from Georgia, like myself. I was once in a class where we were studying purple. The color purple was the essence of the class discussion. And I could answer every question in that discussion and give my perspective because I could relate to Alice Walker. Growing up in Edentonville, Georgia, I grew up in a small town in Georgia as well. And so it got to the point where the professor said I couldn't answer any more questions, right? Exactly. You needed to hear the perspectives of others, but I think I could put myself in the shoes of Alice Walker and could really talk about what was going on. So,
wonderful,
right, exactly.
Wonderful.
So Alice Walker.
Good example. How do you fit book writing into your life?
So the way that I fit this book into my life was during COVID, right? Like all of us, right? You know, we're shut down, couldn't really go anywhere. So a girlfriend of mine told me about a book writing class that she was in at Georgetown University. She was writing her thesis, and her book is The Power of the Black Vote, right? Oh, wow. Great book. She wrote a thesis, and the professor said, hey, you need to get this published, and there's a class at Georgetown where you can be published within a year. Wow. Right, so that's the program that I went through, that Cleo went through, right, Lisa went through as well. So that was the journey. I am not really a reader of fiction. I do a lot of self-help as an executive coach. I do a lot of biographical readings because I think, you know, life is sometimes more fascinating than fiction. So, right. But when I started to write the leadership of Booker T. Washington, is what I was going to write about, it just felt really heavy because I had to do a lot of research, a lot of documented sources. And here I am in the middle of, you know, a pandemic, and I wanted to do something a little bit lighter. So I switched over from writing nonfiction to fiction, like in mid-course. And Professor Coster said, oh my God, that's 180 degrees out from what you started to do. Are you sure about that? And I said, yes, I am. I just want to make stuff up. Right, exactly. So that's how Sisters by Heart got started, just me making up these different characters, these 7 sorority sisters that I had planned to write about in one book. Right, and then, you know, my initial developmental editor said, you can only write about 2. And I'm like, you want me to kill off 5 of the soror? Yeah, what, I can't do that. She was like, oh, that'll be in the sequel. I'm like, oh no, I'm one and done. I'm one and done, right? But yeah, as the book developed, and for those of you who read it, you know that it does beg for a sequel, and that is that is why we have one coming in the September timeframe, exactly, which is the second book. So.
You answered that question because I was going to ask you, is it a lot suspense in it to lead you to, oh, it's got to be more to this, so there is going to be a sequel?
Right. So it's 7 sisters, and I want each of the sisters to be able to relate to each of them, and for them to be able to tell their story. Exactly. I'm just so thankful that people have enjoyed it. I wasn't sure, people may not like it. Right. I may be, yeah. I may be one and done, right? But when I hear stories of people taking it on cruises and reading it out loud, exactly. And I've had the opportunity to go back and present at my alma mater at Tuskegee, right? Exactly. And I wanted to write about, part of it is my experiences, others' experiences. This is not about any one particular HBCU. It's Washington Carver University that is a fictional HBCU in Macon, Georgia. Does not exist. It's a no-name sorority. Right, exactly. Does not exist. But I wanted it to be about how we come together as sisters, right, in good times and in bad times, even when there are things that you could not even imagine yourself doing, how we stick together and help each other to, using Linda's word, overcome. How do you endure? Where does that sense of resiliency come from? Where, who is that person that you can call at midnight or 2 o'clock in the morning?
Right.
Right, exactly. So yeah, so it's about sisterhood, it's about family, it's about marriage, it's about parenthood, motherhood. So you'll find a little bit of everything in it in Sisters by Heart.
Okay, so is there any one particular sister that you liked, that you could relate to more? I know you were making up stuff, but did you have some real stuff up in there that you made up, or?
It is not a memoir. Exactly. So, and I've done some book clubs, and one person said, "Oh my God, that was all me." I was like, "I didn't know you before tonight." So, right. So if you can't relate, I should have put with that disclaimer, if how they tell you,
Yeah.
right, exactly in there. But so there are parts in it that you would be able to relate to. There are characters in the book that you may be able to relate to. And then there would be some like, oh my God, that would never ever happen. Right. I could never let that happen in my life. So yeah, exactly. So yeah.
It gives the impression of the Real Housewives.
I don't even watch those shows. Right, exactly. So, right, exactly. So I don't know. And when I started writing, I stopped. Like I said, I didn't read a lot of fiction anyway, and I haven't read anymore because I don't want it to influence the writing. Right, exactly. And so the Real Housewives, if it relates, okay, maybe, but that was not my intent. Right, I just wanted to write about, these 7 women, they're almost 10 years post graduation, and how they maintain their relationship throughout the course of time, and how they will continue to maintain their relationships, their marriages, how they pull people in, their families become close, their spouses and significant others become close, but they recognize that, hey, these sisters are tight. Right, exactly. And I can't mess with that. Right, I can't touch that. Right, they're the ones. And I tell people there's a part in the book when you read There's a part that I didn't write. I didn't plagiarize, right? But it's the epigraph, and it talks about, how the women in your life will always be there for you, no matter what, right? Exactly, no matter what.
Awesome. Well, I am going to open the floor up for questions. Uh-oh, we got the general here.
First, I just need to make a statement.
Okay.
I did not meet Nickey Knighton until she was retired from the United States. And I don't know if many of you know it or not, but Nickey Knighton is a retired colonel from the United States Army. And she was an aviator.
Not just any aviator. The first black female aviator in the history of the Army. Yeah! Yes, that's it. That is a standing ovation. A pilot. Yes.
I did not know Nickey at the time when she was like, but when she was getting ready to retire, another one of my girlfriends in Sorrow came over and said, "Did you know Nickey Knight's retiring today?" And I said, "Who is Nickey Knight?" "Oh, we need to go to her." She said, "So go to her retirement." So I did. I went to her retirement. And I was sitting there reading the papers and everything, and I said, "She wonder why this woman didn't make piano."
Yeah.
Yeah. So here's my question. How the rest of y'all shut up?
And that's an order.
And that's an order.
The question is, Nick, I know it wasn't easy over here. Because I done been out there first on a number of things. But you just tell us in a few short sentences about your time in the military.
Yes.
And how you feel after having served 30 years in the United States.
Yes. You do it.
Okay. How much time we got?
Yeah.
Exactly. So I am very proud of my decision to join the military. I went through ROTC at Tuskegee University, right? I see some of my Tuskegee folks in the house where we didn't outnumber North Carolina A&T, but we're represented. We're here. Uh, and and I decided that I wanted to go into aviation, right? And at the time, I was not aware that there were no, black female pilots that had graduated from flight training. There were some who had gone to flight training, but had not successfully completed the training. So, right. So, the majority of my career been in the white male-dominated
Yes.
field of Army aviation.
Yes.
I've had great assignments, and I've worked with some really good people. Now, have there been some lows? Right, exactly. I can relate very much to Cleola's story, and as I tell her, you didn't just write your story, you wrote our story.
Yes.
Right, exactly. You wrote the challenges that we've faced through, and like 29 and a half years I served in the military. Um, I hope that I've created a path where others have followed. I've been very disappointed in Army aviation that I haven't seen the path that I wanted to see, right? Because it's very hard to get past captain, right?
Yes,
It's
it
very
is.
hard to get past company command, especially in aviation. And I think we're probably in Army aviation right now, we're probably even worse than it was when I was on active duty in terms of not only just women, African American women, but African American males as well. So my husband's retired military also.
Cool.
Our son, who said he wanted nothing to do with the military. as a captain, serving in the infantry. Couldn't get him to go aviation. Right, exactly. And he's serving in the Ranger Regiment, right at Fort Benning, and is exactly right now. So.
Amen.
Exactly. So, long story short, ma'am, very proud, but very honored to follow in the footsteps of the trailblazers like yourself, who created a path for people like me, Cleola, and a number of the other people right in this room. So we owe a lot to you.
Add a little show right quick. If you served in the military, just raise your hand. You don't have to stand up.
Yeah, I know we got
Yes.
all services represented.
Yes, yes. Thank you all for your service. We have a question? Back in the back. Tuskegee in the house.
Yes.
Knowing Nickey since we were freshmen at Tuskegee. And she's probably one of the most humble people that you'll ever meet. For instance, she didn't tell you, but she was the first U.S. woman to command the Tactical Combat Arms Battalion. I learned it when I was researching Nickey for a project that I was working on. She gives back. She not only writes about sisterhood, but she creates circles of sisterhood. She mentors other women. In short, she is a trailblazer in almost everything she does. Everything she touches, she succeeds at. One of the most touching things about Nickey is how she feels about family. And she relayed to me the story about growing up and her mother, and how her mother encouraged her to keep going when she wasn't sure whether she should pursue a flying career. So Nickey, would you share that story?
So when I went to summer camp at Fort Riley, Kansas, that was when, ROTC summer camp for our region was being held at Fort Riley. That was the first time I flew in an airplane, right, from Columbus, Georgia to Atlanta. And it was the roughest flight ever. It was one of those little prop planes. And I said I was not getting back on the plane. So I called my mom from the payphone and was like, Mom, can you get me a bus ticket to go to Kansas? Right, exactly, from Atlanta. And my mom was like, girl, you better get on that plane, right? You know how long it take you to get to Kansas by bus, right? Exactly. And so I come back from summer camp, having been exposed to different branches. I told my mom, I want to fly helicopters. And she is this the same person who wanted to take the bus to Kansas? Right, exactly. And so when it came time, she went back to Tuskegee, and they were asking, what do you want? Who wants to go to airborne school? Who wants to do this? The different things. And professor said, who wants to go to flight school? And I was the only person in the room to raise my hand, and people were kind of looking at me like, are you serious? Right. And so my MS3 instructor said, Miss Knighton, stay after class. And, Major Marcelez, who's, over at Arlington, is in the cemetery right now. But, and he talked to me and said, if you're serious about it, let's do it. And I told my mom I was pursuing it. And then I came at it from the perspective of, but what if I fail? But what if I fail? Because, right, I started to learn that, hey, no one else had graduated. I was feeling good about it until people started saying, well, nobody else has, graduated, right, from flight school, it's hard to get through, and all of the reasons why, the discouraging words. And then, so I said, and I was looking at my mom and was like, but what if I fail? But what if I fail? And she's like, but what if you succeed?
There you go. Yes.
Yeah. So it just changed my whole mentality about it and the whole perspective that I had. But what if you succeed? And so I think I've carried that with me the rest of my military career, and the rest of life is just, to start looking at the positive and not really look at it from a negative perspective,
Yes,
right?
exactly.
So, yeah.
All right, well, that concludes my interviews for tonight. We want to have time to get back to our station so you can do some book signing. So I'm going to turn it back over to you, Malik.
Thank you, Nickey. Thank you, Vernita. I'll close very quickly. I know Clee's going to say something, but there have just been so many gems and nuggets that have been dropped this afternoon, and I just want to say a big thank you again to all 6 of our authors. So again, thank you, all 6 authors.